We manifest what we believe. The secret to truly manifesting what you desire is to heal the beliefs that block those desires, period. Guides, and we said we're going to have this abuse as children, and we're going to have these extreme experiences, and we're going to do, and I'm not going to put that on you, I'll put it on myself, right? And I'm going to have these experiences of trauma and attachment wounds and severe cocaine addiction and physical issues and remembering the trauma, all of it, check as a journey back to self. And I recognize that none of it is an accident. There are no bad parts of who I am, as Dick always says, no bad parts. And I chose this path so I could unlearn the wounds of the world and remember the light and the self of who I am. And no one is different. I mean, everyone, take it or leave it. They don't have to have my spiritual faith. I don't care, right? But if you can start to see and witness these parts of yourself, Dick says there's no bad parts. And so as you start to witness these parts of yourself through that lens of compassion. Lewis, I was a fellow for a while at this recovery center near my home. And I would go in every month, and each month it would be a new group of 100 people that were the new, because it was a 21-day program. So each month it was new people.
In the addiction program, recovery program.
And the majority of them had 1 to 2 days clean. Okay, because they were new, it was like a new wave of people. And I'd come in and I would teach some of this work. And I would suggest to them that the addict was just trying to protect them.
Yes.
And I'd give them I'd offer them the opportunity to consider that, right? Because when you're deep in your addiction, you're like, nope, I hate this part of myself. This part of myself has ruined my life. I'm a shame. I'm a horrible person. I'm. And to just even slightly tease that out a little and say, well, everybody here in this room, what is your addiction protecting you from? And every single one of them would say this trauma and that trauma and this trauma and that. There's just trauma stories flying through the room. And then we'd say, okay, well, so if you had this extreme experience that you don't know how to manage, and you've been using this thing to manage those big feelings, you see how it's been trying to protect you? And when you look at it through that lens, how do you feel? And everyone in the room would say compassion.
Yeah.
Not everybody was ready for the compassion, but it would come through.
When someone is going through addiction, or someone is addicted to something, you're addicted to drugs mostly, or
cocaine and alcohol.
And alcohol. But when someone is addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, whatever it is, lying,
stealing, work. I also had,
I
had food, work, love.
Sure.
I was like multifaceted.
Right. People, whatever it might be. But if someone is addicted to anything and has an extreme addiction to that thing, what is that saying about them or the parts of them?
What it's saying is they have extreme traumatized little exiles inside, and they've done everything they could to manage those feelings, and that management didn't work anymore. And the firefighter of addiction has stepped in to put out the fire.
Interesting.
And they deserve compassion. They deserve connection. Now, if you're someone who's in a relationship with an addict, and you've tried your best to do all the things, sometimes the most kind and loving and compassionate thing to do is to cut yourself off.
Wow.
And I say that because it's sort of the premise of some of the 12-step work, which is some of the Al-Anon work, which is, well, let's not say Al-Anon, some of the codependency recovery work is really that you don't enable the addict, right? But you have to trust that they have self inside.
How hard is it to end an extreme addiction?
Depends on how much you want it. As a cocaine addict, right? So it also depends on the drug of choice, right? Because if you're trying to get off heroin, it's very different than getting off cocaine, right? You get off cocaine, you just feel better right away. You might detox a little bit, but ultimately you just feel like, you're just like, whoa, I feel better today. I'm not anxious. I'm not crawling out of my skin. Whereas coming off of, heroin or opioids, I mean, that's brutal. You deserve detox. You deserve support. Go to an ER and get the detox that you need. Get whatever support that you need, because that's a different journey. But if you want it, and that's the question. I think all these addicts might be, well, of course I want it, right? But I want to be careful with what I say, because everybody would want it, right? They would want it, but there might be parts of you still that want to lean it, hold on, right?
Of course, because it makes you feel safer.
Makes them feel safer.
There's a relief.
Or that's the way that they, think that the only way they think they can get ahead, or it's still fun, or whatever, right? Sometimes it's when we hit those big bottoms that we really stay clean and get clean. Oftentimes, because it's no longer fun. Like, it's like so destructive. We don't want it anymore. For me, that was the case. I just didn't want it anymore. I struggled for several months in and out of this therapy that I was doing. And like, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just a cocaine addict, blah, blah, blah. I just kept going back out. Or I'll drink. I won't do Coke. And then I always end up doing Coke. And then finally, I found my way into a program and into a self-guided program. And I got myself clean and sober, with the group. And I didn't go to treatment, but I did get my program, and I swear it worked for me. Actually, in a week, I'm celebrating 19 years. Well, actually, let's say this is January now.
Yeah.
Actually, a few months ago, I just celebrated 19 years of sobriety. So now I'm 19 years sober.
It's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. And I wanted it. But also that desire and that willingness is really the whole thing.
It's almost like you have to commit your whole life to being sober, clean, like breaking the addiction. You have to almost commit, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to set myself free. And that might be painful to look at the parts of you in other ways.
But it's slow. They say in 12 steps, like, keep it simple, stupid. And, it's like slow and steady. And people always would say it to me, like, early in recovery, like, I wish you a slow recovery. And because you don't want to try to be, 20 years sober today. It's not going to happen. And I can look back almost 2 decades now and say every part of that journey was exactly as it needed to be.
Yes.
And the thing that's nice about the willingness and the wanting it is that if you do find your way to whatever kind of recovery path you find, it does feel good when you start to get a little bit of it.
Absolutely.